Today I fucked up by trying to donate blood and accidentally entering a military zone. Okay, as most, this wasn't today, but was around 2015 Thanksgiving. I have always made a calendar reminder to donate blood, and when my reminder came up I scheduled via the Red Cross app at the closest place that was available. I didn't really think much of it and just went to the place. It turned up to be a local military base. I mean, I was allowed to enroll for donation, so again didn't think much of it after the restricted entry sign and continued on. After parking in a lot, didn't see any obvious signs or the Red Cross truck. Pedestrian gate was open, so I wandered around a bit until I stumbled upon a holiday party and asked someone where the donation area was. They directed me to a garage area in the back. Once I got there to the place to give donation, I got the third degree on how I got there and my credentials. What's your vehicle? How did you get in here? Exclamation mark. Needless to say, I excused myself and left. TL, doctor, tried to donate blood, and accidentally entered a no-entry zone. About 25 years ago my mom got lost on an Air Force base and somehow wound up on the runway. Thankfully no planes were trying to land/take off. You did what most communist spies could not. Missed my calling I guess, lol. The worst is when you're trying to get to the visitor's registration office for a day pass and the only fucking directions GPS will give you take you through the fucking base. This must have hit a nerve. I'm sorry, but thanks for commiserating. Smile. I would donate, but they don't want my blood. That's sod. There was a big stretch of time where they wanted my platelets too, but they have eased up on those requests. It probably helped that I moved to a state that had privatized blood centers shortly after that Red Cross try. Or maybe I was put on a list after that time. Haha. I just moved back to a Red Cross donation state, so we'll see how it goes with the next one I've scheduled. At least you weren't an idiot that accidentally drives onto a military firing range. It happens more than people like to think. How does one keep driving onto a firing range? No barriers? Not hearing bullets traveling faster than planes? Not seeing obvious signs of a shooting range? Today I fucked up by being in close quarters after a night of drinking. Obligatory this didn't happen today, but a little over 7 years ago. At the time, I was in my late 20s and it was not unusual for my group of friends to close down our local bar. Out this night were myself, my girlfriend Jane, my best friend Rick, and one of the women he was dating, Lisa. Usually my drink of choice is Captain and Coke, but in this group, only Jane and myself had a driver license and Jane didn't like to drive at night, so I wound up sticking to beer for the night. Jane checked everyone in on Facebook, which I wasn't crazy about, but it made her happy, so I didn't argue about it. Closing time came, and our night came to an end. I dropped Rick and Lisa off, and I stayed over at Jane's. I was awakened the next morning by Rick informing me that we had a problem. Apparently Susan, another woman he was dating, saw that we were out and wanted to know why she wasn't invited. He made up an excuse that we had just happened to all run into each other at the bar, but we were getting together that day to go to the zoo and he would love to have her. Well, apparently when Rick spoke to Susan, she was hanging out with Helga. Helga was friends with both Susan and Lisa and knew that Rick was dating Susan, but didn't know about Lisa. Helga texted Lisa and asked if she was going to the zoo that day and she enthusiastically said she'd come along. Rick needed to make this look like it was a planned outing and keep Lisa away from Helga and Susan. Head pounding, mouth and throat bone dry, dizzy, and half asleep, I agreed that we would go to the zoo. I groggily stepped out of bed and realized that something was terribly wrong. It began with a burning in my pelvis that felt like I'd just been kicked in the nuts. Then a loud bubbling as I felt the gas push itself back into my chest cavity. I swear I felt my organs shift as it hit me. The ghost of the beers I had guzzled the night before had come back with a vengeance. I snuck over to the bathroom and let loose. Silent but deadly does not begin to describe it. I prayed it would dissipate and went to rouse Jane. At this point, I was feeling much better and while I regretted agreeing to go to the zoo, I was confident that I could make it through the day. We cleaned ourselves up, picked Rick and Lisa up, and drove to go meet up with the others. Helga had worked a morning shift at a department store, so we decided to go there and head to the zoo from there. On the car ride, my stomach started bubbling again. I know for a fact they all heard it, and all I could do was joke that I must be hungry and couldn't wait to get a hot dog at the zoo. When we all met up, it was me, Jane, Rick, Lisa, Helga, Susan, and Susan's son. And here we were playing defense while pretending to be out having a great time. It was like the outing in The Great Gatsby if they were a bunch of hungover millennials making minimum wage. When we arrived, Helga had about 40 minutes left in her shift, so she suggested we do some window shopping until she finished. Now something about Jane, she liked being close to me, to the point where I couldn't get 2 seconds away from her without her following me. Many times I would walk into a room, realize I'd forgotten something, turn around, and bump into Jane because she was right behind me. So my goal was to get to a bathroom where I could release the building pressure. Helga informed me that there was no public bathroom. No matter where I went, Jane was inches behind me. If I closed my eyes to try to relax, Jane would start asking me questions, so I couldn't even get a moment's peace. Suddenly, Susan's son tugged on Jane's shirt and asked her to read something for him. An opening. While Jane bent down to help Susan's son, I slinked away. I knew I only had a minute at most, so I quickly scanned the departments. Shoes? Nope. Susan and Helga. Men's? No. Lisa and Rick. Fuck. Purses? Okay, nobody in purses. Let's do it. Feeling the heat of 1,000 suns on my anus, I waddled over to the purses, looked both ways and released. There was a sinister hissing as I began to unleash this evil into the world. I felt like a parade balloon deflating. My organs settled back into place. I would swear the ambient temperature in the room rose 5 degrees, and I shuffled back and forth to ensure I hadn't actually shit my pants. Then the stench hit. This was rank, rotten eggs on a hot day, homeless shelter bathroom, sewage treatment plant level stench. If I was standing closer to a wall, I would put money on this taking the paint off of them. I was all set to migrate to a different department when I heard the worst sound in the world. I love this designer. If you're ever looking to get me a gift, I would love something like this. I turned to see Jane standing right behind me. Nodded sadly and stared at her with pity for what she was about to experience. If you're interested in any of these, I'll be happy to give you my employee discount. Helga chimed in, and began pointing out the different purses. Jane enthusiastically began picking them up and talking about them with Helga. Feeling my face turn red, I shamefully walked away from the two. My mind raced trying to come up with any excuse I could, but the best I could do was to pretend I didn't smell anything. He'd never believe it. 10 minutes later we all left the store. Susan took her son, Helga, and Rick, and I took Jane and Lisa. I walked to the car avoiding Jane's gaze. All I could think was that she didn't say anything, so maybe I was in the clear. Maybe she didn't realize what it was. Maybe her allergies were so bad she couldn't smell it. I was praying for a miracle. We got into the car. I started it up. Jane shut the door, looked at me angrily, pointed her finger at me, and shouted, "That was completely fucking disgusting." Oh my god. Seriously? I sighed and replied, "Yes, I know, my bad," but was cut off before getting the last 2 words out. "What was disgusting?" Lisa asked. "Oh great, one more person that knows." Helga. Jane yelled indignantly. We were standing there looking at the purses, and that fucking pig came up and let out the most fucking disgusting fart. I wanted to throw up. Holy shit, that will haunt my dreams for eternity. You were smart. I saw you walk away as soon as it hit, but she just kept me there talking like she didn't just completely destroy the entire department. Tell me that wasn't completely disgusting. I had about half a second to make a decision. Sorry Helga, you're taking one for the team. I nodded stoically and replied, "She is indeed a disgusting person." For the rest of our relationship, I heard her tell the story about the time Helga tried to kill her by farting right next to her at least once a week. This included on several occasions when, either through knowing me too well or having heard my side of the story, my family members had to keep a straight face while fully knowing who really fired that gun. Having committed to her version of events, I had to just continue to agree about what a complete slob Helga was. To this day, Jane still doesn't know it was me, and to my knowledge, despite her telling so many people about it, I don't think it ever got back to Helga in her lifetime. Too long didn't read. After a night of drinking I was asked to play Nick Carraway to a dollar store Jay Gatsby, wound up blowing the nastiest fart I've ever produced about 3 inches from my girlfriend, and ruined another friend's reputation. I thought you shat in one of the purses, not just a nasty fart, only realized when I read the too long didn't read. Ha 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 ha, I legit laughed out loud many times while reading this. Glad it gave you a good laugh. What an amazing story. Ha ha ha, I love it. If it makes you feel better, during our first year of marriage, my wife ripped one that drove me out of the bedroom. I've tried many times for revenge but have never come close. Last week, I finally did it, but she was sleeping in the basement because I was in voluntary quarantine for 2 weeks, so I just burned out my own nose hairs. Well, at least you know you didn't lose your sense of smell. Wait, did Helga die? Sadly, yes. Helga passed away earlier this year. Recalling some light-hearted memories of her, someone reminded me of this story, and I decided to write it up for Reddit. Today I fucked up by making/trying edibles for the first time with my mom. We shared well over a gram of weed and are waiting for our impending doom. So I decided to try edibles with my family today. None of us have ever eaten weed, so naturally we looked up a brownie recipe on the tubes. Well, when we popped them out of the oven, like any other brownies, we let them cool. Fast forward 30 minutes, I try the first brownie to feel out its effects before traumatizing my other family members. So I waited about 90 minutes before eating another. Then decided by then it was fine for my mom to have one. Within another 30 minutes, I ate 3 more. Long story short, my mom had 3 brownies. I had 5. As I had almost given up and considered reaching for another, I start to feel them. We are just now feeling the first one kick in. Now we are Google searching about edibles, low-key freaking out in front of my little sisters. So yeah, we shared half the pan of brownies. How fucked are we? Too long didn't read. My mom and I tried edibles for the first time and ate a gram of weed. It hasn't kicked in. Edit, 37 minutes later. I seriously cannot move my legs. Everything suddenly got euphoric and deeply calming. Edit 2, 40 more minutes later. My thoughts are extremely abstract, and very vivid. This is my last update. I am seconds from falling in the floor and cannot believe I am typing this in. Edit 3, the next morning. I'd like to clarify that I followed a video that explained how to extract every molecule of THC and boost its potency. Many comments are assuming I meant an ounce. But no, I just don't have any tolerance and consumed some very well followed directions on the tutorial, which I will link below and am not affiliated with. The high was significantly different from smoking, and I have only started smoking a few months ago. This high hit very hard and gave me a tranquil feeling. I would have loved to listen to more music or walk around in a forest somewhere. Normal high me wants to have a fun conversation. This high felt deeply spiritual, like something out of Avatar. I had no desire to talk at all. So yeah, 10/10ths would recommend. The strain was Girl Scout cookies. Here is the link to the video I followed, how to make pot brownies.